Most people think ruthless means cold, heartless, someone who doesn't care, who gets hurt on the way to the top. But that's not strength. That's just cruelty, wearing strength's clothes. The strongest person you'll ever meet isn't the one who became cruel to everyone around them. It's the one who became impossible to negotiate with when it comes to their own standards. They stop negotiating with procrastination. They stop negotiating with excuses. They stop negotiating with distraction. They stopped abandoning themselves the second something got uncomfortable. There's a man who understood this better than almost anyone. Bruce Wayne is ruthless toward the mission. Not because he enjoys cruelty, but because he refuses to let fear, weakness, or chaos dictate his next move. His strength is controlled, his anger has boundaries, his discipline has a code, and in the next 20 minutes, you're going to learn how to become ruthless with your weaknesses, your excuses, your distractions, and your standards, without losing your empathy, without becoming arrogant, and without turning into the exact kind of person you used to despise. Because here's the truth you need to hear right now. You don't need to become cruel. You need to become harder on the version of yourself that keeps holding you back. Stay until the end, because the final section is the one that actually changes how you see yourself. Stop confusing ruthlessness with cruelty. There's a difference between ruthlessness, cruelty, discipline, and aggression, and almost nobody was ever taught it. Cruelty targets people. Ruthlessness targets behavior. Cruelty says, I don't care who I hurt. Ruthlessness says, I don't care how uncomfortable this gets, I'm finishing it. That single distinction changes everything, because once you understand it, you stop trying to become hard toward the world. And you start becoming hard toward the parts of yourself that keep sabotaging you. Think about the people you actually admire. Not the loudest people, not the ones who talk the most about being ruthless, the ones who are quietly, consistently, impossible to shake. They didn't get there by stepping on people. They got there by refusing to step on their own future. Batman never tortures the innocent. He never punishes the weak. His war isn't against people, it's against the chaos and decay that destroys them. That's the model. War on the behavior, mercy for the person, including yourself, because here's where most people quietly get this wrong. They think self-improvement means becoming your own worst critic. Waking up and immediately listing everything wrong with you. That's not ruthlessness. That's self-punishment dressed up as discipline. Real ruthlessness is calm, it doesn't scream at you, it just doesn't accept the excuse, and there's a massive difference between those two things. Become ruthless with your excuses. Excuses exist for one reason: to protect temporary comfort. I'll start tomorrow. I don't have time. I'm not ready yet. I'll do it when I feel motivated. Every one of those sentences is a negotiation. And negotiating with yourself every single day is exhausting, so here's the rule that changes it. Decide once, then execute. If your rule is I train 4 days a week, you don't renegotiate that rule every morning based on how you feel. You follow it unless there's a genuinely legitimate reason to change the plan, not just a convenient one. Why it works: because willpower isn't meant to make the same decision 500 times a day. It's meant to make it once, permanently. How to implement it: write your non-negotiables down, in plain language, before the moment of resistance ever arrives. Example: a student who decides in advance, I study from 7 to 9 every weeknight. No debate, no matter how the day went. Common mistake: confusing flexibility with self-negotiation. Adjusting the plan because life happened is fine. Abandoning it because you don't feel like it isn't. There's also a quieter excuse almost nobody talks about: waiting to feel ready. Feeling ready is not a requirement for starting. It's a reward for having already started. The people you think are ahead of you didn't feel ready either. They just stopped waiting for the feeling and started acting on the decision instead. Your challenge today: pick one recurring excuse you hear from yourself and write the rule that ends the debate permanently. Stop negotiating with your weakness. Here's something almost nobody tells you. Your weakness isn't something to hate, it's something to identify and train. Procrastination, impulsive scrolling, poor sleep. fear of rejection, avoidance, emotional reactivity. None of these make you broken, they make you human. With an untrained pattern, why it works self-hatred burns energy you need for change, while precise identification gives you a target you can actually train against. How to implement it: name the weakness specifically, measure how often it shows up this week. Then, build one small replacement behavior for the moment it usually strikes. Example: instead of opening social media the second you wake up, you place your phone across the room and read one page of something useful first. Common mistake: trying to fix 5 weaknesses at once, which guarantees you fix none of them. There's a pattern almost everyone falls into here. They treat their weakness like an enemy that needs to be destroyed in one dramatic moment. But weakness doesn't work like that. It's not a wall you break down with one hit. It's a habit you outvote, one small decision at a time, day after day, until the old pattern simply doesn't have enough votes left to win anymore. That's not weakness. That's math. Your challenge: pick the one weakness costing you the most right now, and design a single replacement behavior for it this week. You don't need to hate yourself to change yourself. You need to stop protecting the behaviors that keep you weak. Protect your time like it matters. Every notification, every random conversation that leads nowhere, every scroll, every unnecessary commitment is quietly taking something from the future version of you. Ask yourself one question before you give anything your attention: does this move me toward the person I'm trying to become? If the honest answer is no, you have to question why you keep giving it your time. Why it works: attention is the only truly non-renewable resource you have. And where it goes is where your life goes. How to implement it: turn off unnecessary notifications, build 2 or 3 protected focus blocks into your day, and schedule entertainment instead of defaulting to it. Example: a working professional who blocks the first 90 minutes of their morning before opening any messaging app at all. Common mistake: trying to eliminate every distraction overnight, instead of building one protected block and expanding from there. Here's what makes this section uncomfortable: most people aren't losing their time to some huge dramatic event. They're losing it in 90-second increments, scattered across an entire day, until an entire decade disappears into a feed they don't even remember scrolling through. That's the real cost, not one big loss. Thousands of tiny ones you never noticed happening. Your challenge: choose one 2-hour window today and defend it like it's the most important meeting of your week. Raise your standards. Your life is often just a reflection of what you keep tolerating, but raising your standards doesn't mean demanding perfection from yourself. It means deciding on a floor you refuse to fall beneath. I don't lie to myself about what I actually did today. I finish what I commit to. I don't tolerate repeated disrespect. I don't sacrifice my health for temporary comfort. I don't let one bad day become a bad month. Why it works: clear minimums. Remove the ambiguity that lets you talk yourself into settling. How to implement it: write down 3 or 4 minimum behaviors in each key area of your life. Work, health, relationships. Example: someone who decides, no matter how the day goes, I will not skip my one non-negotiable workout of the week. Common mistake: setting standards so high they become impossible, which quietly gives you permission to quit. Here's the part people miss about standards: they're not built in the good moments. They're revealed in the bad ones. Anyone can hold a standard when life is easy. The real test is whether you hold it when you're tired, when you're disrespected, when nobody's watching. When quitting would be completely understandable. That's where your actual standard lives, not the one you write down, the one you actually enforce. Your challenge: write your personal floor for one area of your life, right now, in one sentence. Learn to say no without guilt. Becoming disciplined will disappoint people. That's not a flaw in the plan. That's the cost of the plan. You cannot say yes to everything and still protect what you're building. But there's a wrong way and a right way to do it. I can't commit to that right now. That doesn't fit my priorities at the moment. I appreciate the offer, but I'm going to pass. Why it works: a clear no protects the relationship, because resentment from overcommitting damages it far worse than honesty ever could. How to implement it: prepare your no in advance for the requests you already know are coming. Example: declining a social plan that always derails your sleep without over-explaining or apologizing for it. Common mistake: believing a boundary is an attack. A firm no delivered with respect is not cruelty, it's clarity. There's a version of guilt that tries to convince you that saying no makes you selfish. But notice something: the people who respect your no respect you more afterward, and the people who punish you for having one were never respecting your time to begin with. They were just benefiting from the fact that you didn't have a boundary yet. Your challenge: say no to one thing this week that you would normally accept out of guilt. Control your emotions. Emotional ruthlessness doesn't mean feeling nothing. It means refusing to let anger, fear, jealousy, or ego make your decisions for you. You're allowed to feel the emotion, you're just not obligated to obey it. Notice it. Pause. Name it. Choose your response, then act. Why it works: the gap between stimulus and response is exactly where your power lives, and shrinking that gap is what impulsive people do. How to implement it: the moment you feel the spike, silently name it. That's anger, that's fear, that's ego. Naming it weakens its grip immediately. Example: someone criticizes your work in front of others, and instead of firing back, you pause. Name the sting and choose the response that actually serves the outcome you want. Common mistake: mistaking suppression for control. Burying the emotion isn't mastery. Naming it and choosing your response is. Batman never lets grief or rage choose his next move. The mission decides that, not the emotion of the moment. Think about how much of your life has been decided by 5-second impulses: the message you sent angry, the decision you made scared, the opportunity you avoided out of pride. None of those moments needed you to suppress the feeling. They just needed you to survive 5 seconds without obeying it. Your challenge: the next time you feel triggered today, say the emotion's name silently before you respond to anything. Be decisive without becoming cold. Indecision feels safe, but it's often just another form of avoidance wearing a thoughtful disguise. Real ruthlessness means you make the call, gather enough information, not infinite information. Identify the trade-off honestly, make the decision, accept the consequence, adjust later if you have to. Why it works: clarity comes from action, not from more analysis. You rarely think your way into certainty, you act your way into it. How to implement it: give yourself a decision deadline, and when it arrives, choose based on what you know, not what you wish you knew. Example: someone who's been circling a career decision for months finally sets a 2-week deadline and commits to a direction. Common mistake: confusing decisiveness with recklessness. The goal is clear thinking, never impulsiveness. Here's the quiet trap of overthinking: it feels productive because it feels like effort. But endless analysis without a deadline isn't wisdom, it's just fear, wearing a more intelligent sounding disguise. The moment you set a real deadline for a decision, something shifts. Your brain stops circling and starts actually working toward an answer. Your challenge: identify one decision you've been circling and give yourself 48 hours to make it. Build a code you will not break. Batman has a code: one line he refuses to cross. No matter the pressure, no matter the temptation, no matter how much easier breaking it would make everything, you need one too. Not 10 rules you'll forget, by Thursday 5 non-negotiables you will not break. I don't betray my own goals for temporary comfort. I don't lie to protect my ego. I don't react when I'm angry. I finish what I commit to. I don't abandon myself after failure. Why it works: when your values are decided in advance, you stop negotiating with yourself in the heat of the difficult moment. How to implement it: write your 5 right now, in your own words, somewhere you'll actually see them again. Example: someone who decides in advance, I don't send angry messages, so in the moment of anger there's nothing left to debate. Common mistake: writing a code you don't actually believe in. Borrowed from someone else instead of built from your own failures. Here's why the code matters more than motivation ever will. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable by design. A code isn't a feeling, it's a decision you made on a calm day that protects you on a chaotic one. That's the entire point. You're not relying on the version of you that shows up when everything's easy. You're relying on the version of you that already decided, in advance, what happens when it's not. Your challenge: write your 5 non-negotiables tonight before you go to sleep. The mask is not the point. Here's something most people misunderstand about Batman completely. They think the cowl is where his power comes from, the gadgets, the suit, the car. But take all of that away, and something interesting happens. Bruce Wayne is still dangerous, because the real weapon was never the costume, it was the decision he made long before he ever put it on. The decision to stop being ruled by what happened to him, and start being ruled by what he chose to become instead. That's the part nobody talks about. Every single person watching this right now has a version of that decision waiting for them. Not a cape, not a symbol, just a quiet, private choice to stop being controlled by the thing that's been controlling you. And here's where this gets uncomfortable. On purpose, ask yourself right now, what has been running your life without your permission? Is it the fear of what people think? Is it the comfort you keep choosing over the goal you keep claiming to want? Is it the version of you that shows up loud in every group chat but disappears the second real discipline is required? You already know the answer. You knew it before this video even started. You've just been avoiding saying it out loud. That's fine. Most people avoid it for years. The difference is what happens next. Because knowing your weakness and still protecting it isn't humility. It's just a more comfortable form of losing. The mask was never the point. The point was the moment before the mask, the moment where a person, sitting alone with everything they'd lost, decided that this, whatever this was, would never define them again. You don't need a tragedy to make that decision. You just need to stop waiting for one. Become dangerous to your old self. Here's the real meaning of everything you just learned. You were never supposed to become dangerous to other people. You were supposed to become dangerous to the habits that have been quietly controlling you. Your procrastination, your excuses, your need for other people's approval, your fear, your inconsistency, your addiction to comfort. Those are the things you stop negotiating with. And when you do, something shifts. You become calmer, more disciplined, more decisive, more selective about where your time goes, harder to manipulate, and finally trustworthy to yourself again. That's controlled ruthlessness, not a weapon aimed outward, a standard aimed inward. Notice something about every version of you that you're proud of. Looking back, it was never the version that had it easiest, it was the version that stopped negotiating. Right when negotiating would have been so much easier, that's the person you're building right now. One refused excuse at a time. You don't need to lose your humanity to become strong. You don't need to go cold to become disciplined. You don't need to hurt a single person to become powerful. You simply need to stop betraying yourself, be ruthless with your standards, ruthless with your excuses, ruthless with your discipline, and compassionate enough to never become the monster you were trying to defeat. Bruce Wayne didn't put on the mask because he stopped caring. He put it on because he cared enough to become uncompromising. That's the whole secret hiding behind the cape, so if you're finally done negotiating with the version of yourself you were meant to outgrow, comment one word below: ruthless. Not because you're becoming cold, but because today is the day the negotiating stops.